Hello, welcome to the 12th episode of the Aussie Footy Show, presented by the BJ Show. Before we get started, I would like to share that Aidan and BJ will share a two-part episode for round 8 reviews and thoughts, and round 9 for all your predictions for round 9. So that's all over and done. But I would like to let you all know that before we do get underway with the round 8 reviews and thoughts for each game, I would like to let you know we're on 851 downloads currently on the BJ Show podcast. But where you can find it and listen to it, where you can find it is the BJ Show podcast Facebook page. Make sure you like it, and all the latest episode with Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you so much for all your listening. Let's get on the way. We're starting with BJ's reviews and thoughts. Okay, so let's go on the way. Thursday night football. Essendon and the North Melbourne, what an upset of the round could be this. With North Melbourne absolutely dominating with Essendon holding on. But let's get straight into it. This was played on Thursday night football at Marble Stadium with a 35,459 pack at the Marble Stadium. It was Essendon, as I mentioned, holding on a huge win over North Melbourne. Credit to North Melbourne. Bad luck. 2 weeks in a row. You just went so short, and I know you're going to take on Brisbane and fight it well in Hobart. So the final score for this game we're discussing about was 9-11-65, defeated 9-8-62. Reviews and thoughts for this game, here we go. So we do start off with North Melbourne. Like I said, bad luck on the result. Bad luck on not winning this game, because you deserved this game. I tip you. I back you up. We knew that it was just one step closer, and you just could not give up. First half wasn't great, but the second half you totally reply, and you knew this was anyone's game. It was close all night, and knowing that Essendon were going to be a very challenging team coming in. They're very quick at Marble, and North Melbourne have come and responded big time in the 2025 AFL Premiership season. So I know that North Melbourne are getting better each week under Coach Clarkson. You know, he's a good quality coach, but he needs to know that this is a young group, a bit of experience, and they are just showing up each week and one step better. So, you know, Brisbane in Hobart at Nugent Stadium should be a good crowd. You know, get behind North Melbourne supporters, get behind your team, because they are going to be challenged against Brisbane, and it will be a great test to see where they are at this part of the season after 9 rounds. So, you know, it's not going to be easy for North Melbourne, but I think some of those stars are totally just keep fighting to the end. You know, against Port Adelaide and against Essendon, you know, a very short week to play at Marble, and, you know, in front of Essendon supporters. You know, credit to Essendon, but we do go over to Essendon now. No, Sam Draker, and still win. Yes, lost against Collingwood and lost. And bad. So, you know, it's a matter win for Essendon. You know, the 35,000 packed at Marble, see Essendon perform in a Marble Stadium performance, knowing that was a really important one. You know, there's going to be times that Essendon are going to come absolute flying and started well, then after that they'll go flat. So, you know, this was a really important one. They do take on Sydney. We'll chat very soon on another game. But, you know, Essendon knowing that they need to get behind their support, their team right now. This is the time of the season. Get behind them. Big time. St Kilda doing it. They did so well against Fremantle. We'll share that very soon. But goodness sake, you know, that's a decent crowd to have out of 35,000, out of 50,000 at Marble. That's loud. And, you know, it was a great effort for Essendon, and knowing they're going to be really both teams in good form, and both at home, but Essendon do host this game. Be a good game for Sydney to come to Melbourne at Marble Stadium, get a good crowd in. It should be between 35 and 40,000, and it'll be another good packed house and a good entertainment game too. Right. All right. We'll come to the Essendon and then North Melbourne best on ground, including of their captain, Essendon star, Zach Merritt. Well done. 117 A4 fantasy, 7 marks, 3 tackles, 5 clearances, and 490 metres game. Great effort and great performance. Zach Merritt on your game performance for the Essendon captain star. Friday night football at Marble Stadium, and we're back there again. We got St Kilda taking on Fremantle Dockers. We'll share that with you some thoughts very, very soon. Very low, not the best crowd, for 20,522 pack at Marble Stadium. But first up, big winners for St Kilda. Absolutely defeated Fremantle 14-10-94, 5-3-33. Now, before I really get into St Kilda's and positive attitudes, but it's Fremantle Dockers. Big winners on Anzac Day night against improved LA Crows. And then you come to Melbourne and the performance, the word is awful. To say that. Not even show up to play 4 quarters of football. You cannot play a top 4 spot to play like a team like St Kilda are finding their feet in that top 8. They are more higher than you overall on the footy field. After 8 rounds, you've come together to play Melbourne. You can't play on the road. You know, that's awful. First time in a long time under Justin Longmire. That is the worst performance for Fremantle Dockers. Keep 1 goal in 1 half is poor. Absolutely. You know better to how to perform. And then, doesn't matter if you're at home or away. You know, you play well at home, but when you come on the road, you just can't perform it in Melbourne. And Marble Stadium, even at the MCG, you know, got defeated against Melbourne Demons, which they are finding ways to win games. And then they take on St Kilda Fremantle once again, lost a game. Melbourne, MCG for Melbourne, and St Kilda at Marble. So I tell you right now, you know, it doesn't matter what you have on that footy field, you've got to find a way to get bounced back. And yes, you do play Collingwood. Big test at home. You know, Collingwood are going to come back from that awful loss. They're going to come on the road and absolutely pour in a performance. Because I can tell you right now, you need to bring your best game. You know, you don't bring your best game, Collingwood is going to absolutely dominate it. And, you know, that they get back on the winning list. But, you know, you can't get 1 win, loss, win, you know. It's not, that's what Fremantle I like. And that is my thoughts. I'm not trying to be too hard, but absolutely, you know, they have confidence, Fremantle, coming into this game. And they went to sleep. They could not. They look really flat. And that is not a good thing. You know, you're going to play September finals. You cannot be in that position to do. You know, you're going to take these wins. You're going to take on the road. Even you win by a couple of points on the road. You know, that's really important. But I will come now to St Kilda. Big win. You know, this is what St Kilda have been waiting for so long. And St Kilda supporters, get behind your team because that is the best rival. 20,000 people, at least 15,000. You know, get behind your team. You know, you got a really decent side. You know, when you perform well, you're hard to play. You're hard to verse. And I tell you right now, they're going to look really good. You pass every quarter, all those 4 quarters. You let every game and you test Fremantle skills to know you're quick at marble. And that's what St Kilda's pressure was. Those supporters of St Kilda show that this is what St Kilda has been waiting for. And that confidence will go into face Carlton at Marble. It will be a Carlton home game, knowing that Carlton are pretty good at Marble, but I think it will be a really close game. And I tell you right now, St Kilda are not going to let this happen against Carlton. After a poor month of footy for St Kilda, they are coming good against St Kilda. This is the time to really show up and play some good contest football. Don't look flat. You know, that's what's going to happen if St Kilda's, if they're in the game for 4 quarters and they are just a loss, I'll be proud about St Kilda about that. But best of luck for St Kilda taking on Carlton. I will talk about Carlton very soon. This is not going to be good news for Carlton supporters about what I'm going to share. But we'll get to the part of the game for the St Kilda and Fremantle game. Jack Macker cleared St Kilda's star, best on ground, 139 A4 fantasy, 38 disposals, 6 marks, 8 tackles, 14 clearances. Well done, Jack Macker, on your best performance since he's coming over to St Kilda on your game performance. Play well again against Carlton. because look out, St Kilda supporters. Get behind your team against Carlton and get a good crowd of 40,000. You'd earn another win against Carlton. But respond well, big time. Fremantle bounce back big time against a team just struggled against Geelong for Collingwood. So it'll be good. 2 games ahead will be very entertainment. All right, off to the next game. Time to hit into Saturday afternoon football. We got 2 Saturday afternoon football and 2 Saturday night football. So lots of entertainment, total of 4 games. And it's called Super Saturday Footy. And it's so much super. The first game we head to Mars Stadium in Ballarat for the Western Bulldogs take on Port Adelaide. We'll then take on to the Adelaide Oval in Adelaide. The Adelaide Crows take on the Golden Blues. That is 2 Saturday afternoon football games. Then we have 2 Saturday night games. In my thoughts, the Collingwood and Geelong is my game of the round at the MCG. And then up the stadium for the West Coast Eagles take on Melbourne Demons. All right, let's get to the first game right now. All right, the first out of Super Saturday football. That's right, Western Bulldogs Port Adelaide at Mars Stadium in Ballarat. And I've got to say, wow, okay. This game wasn't that good. I think it's embarrassing for Port Adelaide. But we'll share that very soon. We have 4,814 fans packed Mars Stadium with a lot of upgrades down there and Ballarat at Mars Stadium with the Western Bulldogs defeated 2011-131, defeated 5-11-41, and I gotta say one way or another it was all one traffic and one team just absolutely took 4 quarters to victory, with Port Adelaide just couldn't show up. They were almost worse than Fremantle. That's the word. Awful. Poor. The skills. Flat. Absolutely not great. But here's why I thought. We do start off with Port Adelaide. Absolute poor performance against an improved team with the Bulldogs. Which they had absolute great players. Which they absolutely enjoy playing at Mars Stadium in Ballarat. 3 good wins from Port Adelaide, then show at Mars Stadium against Western Bulldogs, knowing that they were in good form coming in this week, a big week coming in to get to Mars Stadium, to take on a challenge like this. And Port Adelaide did start well, I've got to say, they did start well, but very quickly went down. And I am sure that this is not the Port Adelaide we've been waiting for, and it's not their season. They're just not in best form at the moment, and it's maybe a little bit too late to make the finals. I think this is going to be a year off that they've got to find some big recruits. No Dan Chisholm, he's gone. And what's happened? They have not replaced him. They've absolutely not found a replacement for them, the Dan Chisholm position. And I'll tell you right now, coming in against the LA Crows, a big showdown 57, should be a sold-out crowd, absolute 50,000 plus pack at the Adelaide Oval on a Saturday night in round 9, which will be absolute pushing this one of the games to be shared and one of the best showdowns in Rydal's history to see in the AFL that Port Adelaide need to wake up and find out, but not this sport in next week's showdown. They need to find now. They need to work on what they need to work on and find it all 4 quarters of football. But it's going to be a challenge against the LA Crows, I gotta say. But Western Bulldogs, I'm going to go over to you. 4 quarters of football, no Sam Darcy, and they still win. And this was a win. They got players all over the field that they can hit goals, and they've done it. It wasn't the best start. Port Adelaide came out really well, I've got to say quite for that, since going around. After the quarter time, it was all over half time, and from half time, it was great. But the players absolutely stood up with the captain of Bonds, Ed Richards, Tim English, returning since this year, and that is Adam Terrell as well as their captain, Bronson Pelletier, from the Western Bulldogs captain. So, this was, it wasn't easy for the Western Bulldogs to come in versus a good team like Port Adelaide, but Western Bulldogs, they are really in good form, and they are going to be one of the hardest teams to come up against if it doesn't matter, it's MCG, Marble, Stadium or Mars MCG, Marble Stadium or Mars Stadium in Ballarat. It doesn't matter where Western Bulldogs host the game. You're on the road to the Adelaide Oval of the West of Australia at Optus Stadium. It does not matter where you play. Western Bulldogs will show up and play their brand of football, and so on and so on. All right, it's time for the best of player. Western Bulldogs and Port Adelaide. I'm going with Tim English. 145 AFL Fantasy, 3 goals, 27 disposals, 6 marks, 30 hit-outs. Well done on your game performance, Tim English from the Western Bulldogs. Ruckman star. And into the Adelaide Oval for the second Saturday afternoon Super Saturday football at the Adelaide Oval for the big crowd of 46,000 plus 57 at the Adelaide Oval for the Adelaide Crows and the Carlton Blues. Final score 16-14, 110, defeated 7-8. 50. All right, let's get over to there as I will now share your reviews and thoughts. What can I say about this game? Carlton Blues big wins against Geelong. Came to Adelaide, thought they would have confidence in a sold-out crowd in front of the Adelaide Crows supporters, and knowing that they were really in good form to make it 4-4. Something does not went right. The Adelaide Crows, 60-point victories. Now, this is a big thing. To win by 2 goals against Geelong and then lose by 10 goals makes the competition really worry for Carlton and Michael Voss. You know, they were very happy, but I think they went over excitement and, you know, Key Forward's not in best form. Knowing that, you know, the best defenders of Josh Warren, absolute in form, knew he had to bounce back from that loss against Fremantle. But we'll share that very soon. But it wasn't Carlton's day. It wasn't Adelaide's day against Fremantle. It wasn't Carlton's day against Adelaide Crows. And I gotta say, it's not the first one for never. They'll have to bounce back against St Kilda and have all their current supporters in front of them. They should have all their current supporters at Marble Stadium as they take on St Kilda next round. In round 9, we'll absolutely share very shortly. It could be a hard moment, but yeah, Carlton had some really good moments, but their ball skills overall was not great. Their pressure was not very well. Absolute, just couldn't hold it. And the opening pressure that Adelaide just kick easy goals. Open the fence, and I tell you, Carlton just could not hold on. The LA forwards, you know, Tex, Philful, that's Rakin, Rochelle, you know, those 4 names absolutely dominated. Keys absolutely dominated. You know, just to name 5 LA Crows stars. And, you know, they did some really important goals, but unfortunately, you know, Carlton are better than this. I have seen better pressure in this, but unfortunately, they do come to Adelaide Oval and they can't perform. They just could not perform, but not against Adelaide Crows. They have not defeated Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval, come Blues. One day that will happen, but not as yet. But response from the LA Crows, great response from the LA Crows from last week against the Fremantle Dockers. It was in Perth. It wasn't an easy trip to go to Anzac round. And they do take on Port Adelaide Showdown 58. And they do take on Port Adelaide in Showdown 57. And what should be an entertainment to watch, Port Adelaide will bounce back. They will really, really be in the heat. And no matter where you're on the AFL ladder, you know, it should be a really good game for the LA Crows. They will bring the LA Crows football. Let's say Port Adelaide. And they will have their supporters, Port Adelaide. They'll be back at home in front of their supporters. It will be a Port home game. And it should be a good entertainment. But the best players from the LA Crows, not much as Carlton, but Braun Dawson, Isaac Raking, Riley O'Brien, Matt McElroy, all the Crows players, and just Ryan. I have to include him as well. Fortunately not on my list, but, you know, they all just play their role. They play so exciting football, and they're coming, like I mentioned before, they're coming off a big win against Geelong, and, you know, we'll share very soon, but the Geelong game, but tell you right now, I really have more confidence for the LA Crows to take on Port Adelaide over Port Adelaide. You know, you lose by, 13, 15 goals, 90 points against the improved Western Bulldogs. Then the LA Crows win by 60. So I tell you right now, it's going to be close for the showdown. But no matter where you're on the ladder, it should be a good game. Best wishes for the LA Crows as they face Port Adelaide. As well, Carlton, St Kilda. Well, right now, as I mentioned, the best player for the LA Crows come Blues is Isaac Reagan, 128 for fantasy, 2 goals, 29 disposals, 9 marks, 5 clearances, and 469 metres game. Awesome performance, Isaac Reagan from the LA Crows. All right, time now to move on to Super Saturday Night Football, and I can't wait to share with you all. First one is in Perth at Optus Stadium, then in Melbourne at the MCG. The first one is West Coast versus Melbourne, and then the Collingwood Geelong game. So let's hit to West Coast versus Melbourne. All right, here we go. West Coast versus Melbourne, knowing that West Coast and the rebuilding, not knowing where they are together. They got to start playing together. They want to win a game of football. For the West Coast supporters, they've got to find a way. And I tell you right now, there's not going to be a West Coast Eagles not knowing where they are. You know, what's happening to the coach? It's not fair on the coach. The coaches tell the message for the players. The players need to perform. Now, this is not great, but I will give you the final score. 16-12-108, defeat 11-10-76. It was a 5-goal loss to the West Coast. A little bit better, but not great. Well done to Melbourne on the big road trip to Perth. Not easy. No matter if West Coast is in poor performance or okay performance. Now, Melbourne knew they were going to get the easy win on the road. You know, it wasn't just a win. Melbourne are starting to find games, and they've won the last 3 games in a row. Couldn't say much about West Coast, as I have said, play well as a team. The wins will come hopefully this footy season. Looking good for Melbourne. Take this win, get back on the track, and play well against Hawthorn. Not going to be easy for Melbourne Demons. A big road test, a home test in front of your Melbourne supporters. Get your Melbourne supporters. Come on, Melbourne Demons. Support your team. They are in good form. It will be a test for Hawthorn, but doesn't matter where they are on the ladder. Support your supporters. Get at least 40 to 45,000. See at least more Melbourne and then Hawthorn. It will be an interesting game to watch. This game, it will be a really entertainment and hopefully a good day of at the MCG. Like I said, West Coast, not much to say about West Coast, they need to find something, and if they don't perform now, they're going to get absolutely beaten each week, and they're lucky to win by 5 goals. They could get beaten a lot more, and they find a way back into the contest, West Coast, but they need to work together, and they're not there. But okie dokie, we will now come to the best game. It's West Coast and Melbourne, and we'll give it to Matt Scorn, the captain from Melbourne included. 158 for fantasy, 1 goal, 35 disposals, 8 marks, 9 clearances, and 47 hitouts. The most hitouts of any player on that footy field, including that 9 clearances, as I said. It was 8 marks. Absolute performance. Almost a triple stacked. Again, I tell you right now, Melbourne are looking good in good form, and you bring that Melbourne Magic back into the competition, look out, because they're back. But bad luck on West Coast. Heads up, play well next week. We'll now come to the next game. Before we head over to the MCG for the Rifles, the game of the round, I would like to give the crowd attendance of 41,991 packed the Optus Stadium. Well done, West Coast supporters, making a good, decent, okay crowd. Over 41 out of 55,000. That's 80% sold. Well done. But thank you again. Well done. Once again, Melbourne Demons and Matt Scorn, the best on ground, with all the winnings on their side. All right, let's head to the MCG for the Collingwood Magpies. Hack on Geelong. All right, we're back in Melbourne at the MCG for the other Saturday night football. We have the crowd attendance of 82,514 packed the MCG. What I really think, this could be the 8th win for Collingwood, but it was the last 7 wins in a row. Geelong finding wins week in and week out. But we do have the final score. Geelong feeding the Collingwood Magpies by 3 points and a nail biter 15-12-90 to 12-15-87. A really good comeback for the sexy Geelong Cats. They played their sexy brand of football, and it was the last few minutes of the game that Collingwood almost had their chance to win the game and really missed it after the siren. But unfortunately, starting after 7 wins in a row from the opening round, that Collingwood were absolute in front of form, finishing top of the ladder, now dropping, and then it's Brisbane taking that top spot of the AFL Premiership ladder, which Collingwood are still a good team. They will reset. They don't head over to, we'll share who they are going to play very, very soon. But, you know, Collingwood did led 80% of the game, but Geelong just absolutely proven and proved that they are sexy Geelong and they will win their football together. But yeah, big winners. And I tell you, I was very proud of that. Yes, I did tip Collingwood. A lot of people did tip Collingwood to win this game. 8 wins in a row, but unfortunately, that Collingwood just could not find a way, but they will bounce. They'll hit the playoff. They'll take on Fremantle, and they will really bring that Collingwood football back on the winning list. But you never know, friends, could find a way to win that game as well. Well, now we just made it nice and short and sharp, but a 3-point victory once again to Geelong. Well effort, but I will give it to the player of the game between Collingwood and Geelong. I'm going for Darcy Cameron from Collingwood. Yes, in the losing team. Wow. I can't believe I'm saying that, but he absolute dominated. Was 148 for fantasy. 1 goal, 23 disposals, 7 marks, 4 tackles, 6 clearances, 38 hit out. Well effort, Darcy Cameron from Collingwood. Well done on your game performance. Super Sunday footy, and we have 3 games, and the last 3 games to share with you all. The first up is in Sydney at the SCG for the 30th Sydney Derby, known for Lifeline Cup between Sydney Swans and GWS Giants. We'll find out more about the Sydney Derby very soon, as these 2 teams hate each other on the footy field. Then we come back to in the Melbourne at the MCG. A good crowd. Will share that in a moment what crowd it was. But this game is a really important one. The first time that Hawthorn and Richmond met in first time in 1925. It's the 100th anniversary between these 2 first up met. May not at the MCG, but this will be played at the MCG, and I can't wait to share it with you all. And then the last one on a Sunday night, Brisbane and Gold Coast for the Q Clash 28. And this was played at the Gutter. So let's now start off with the Sydney Derby 30th. The 30th Sydney Derby for the Swans and the Giants. So, yeah. So let's get to it. So, as I said in the intro, both Swans and Giants do not like each other, and there was a bit of heat between both sides. But it was credit to Sydney taking the big win, 12-15-87 defeated 10-13-73. Knew Sydney needed the bounce. They need to respond, and they did. They did so well. Against a GWS outfit, it's been some up and downs with injuries and all that, and, you know, they started out of the blocks, they won the tab, and they really found the first score and never looked back. GWS really did come hard, but wasn't enough. And yeah, Sydney really knew how important this, when they played well at the SCG in a derby, they looked really, really dangerous. So the crowd was 39,260,000 packed the SCG, which is so great. Now, in my thoughts, I thought this was going to be close all game, and it was. In my thoughts about GWS, and that's where we start off. This would need to be a win for them and take on Sydney, as they have been struggling ever since the LA Crows, and then they went to Canberra to take on the Western Bulldogs. Now Sydney. It's starting to look like they're not the Graham Western we know, the Orange Army. They know how to play really well, and unfortunately they do take on Geelong and down at Geelong, and it should be an interesting game because they have upset Geelong down at the Cutlery, and it should be a really good contest, but not much anything in a big way. But we do go to Sydney now, and well done being back on the winners list. It's been a long time. First home game for the season, which is always very important for your Sydney fans. Well done to all the both teams show up and support your colours. Coming into this game, Sydney needed to respond well, and they did. All 4 quarters. And Dean Cox will be so happy to get his first win as head coach in the Sydney Derby, and he knows how important the game to go to Marble, tag on Essendon, won't be easy because Essendon are pretty good at Marble, but Sydney can play it well at Marble, but it's not their favourite ground. But Essendon will bring it, and they want to get some win that game. But it should be a very entertaining game to watch, and all the best for both Sydney and GWS, whoever they are playing will. Obviously, I'd said about Sydney Swans. Well, there you come now to the player of the game, Sydney and GWS Giants, and I gave it to Chad Winger. Well done. Includes 83 A for fantasy, 24 disposals, 4 tackles, 4 clearances, and a 579 metres game. Well done on your game performance, Chad Winger, on your game from Sydney Swans. We come to the next game, as I mentioned in the intro, about the Hawthorn vs Richmond 100th anniversary for Hawthorn and Richmond. First met in 1925. They met at Glenfair Oval, and Richmond did win that game by 39 points. 100 years ago later, Hawthorn took over that win, and the final score is 16-13, 109, 6-8-44. Richmond in that rebuild, so Richmond knew they're going to have to start well. They got to bring their best foot forward, and fortunately, Hawthorn just really took control. South off, we do start off with Richmond. It's all about learning, building, and improving skills as a team. Big test for Richmond. Knows that wasn't going to be an easy game, and Hawthorn really took out of it. A decent crowd for this game, 62,321 pack at the MCG. Richmond had some good moments in the game, but it wasn't they did their best. Let's say that. But fortunately, Richmond still has a long way to go, and it's a long season for them. They do face West Coast back at the MCG. Should get a good, decent crowd, hopefully a 35,000, hopefully MCG, not a big crowd, because Richmond are just not in. Support your team, Richmond. It is a rebuilding season, and I know it's not nice to lose that by much, but, heads up, play well against West Coast. I think you have more confidence, and I back you 100% because you're beating Gold Coast, you're beating Carlton, and I have a feeling you're going to take on West Coast and win. But we never know what could happen. We'll find out. Till then, we'll do come to Hawthorn's reviews and thoughts. Well done on another win. It's another win, another celebration. That's another win for business. This is what a big one is. Jack Gunson, the former Crow, come and kick 500 goals in his career. Congratulations, mate. I saw the goal, and you did so well. Hawthorn just played their style of football. They brought some really heat, and New Richmond totally hated it. There was a bit of a fight, but they separated. They continue on. Big rivals like that, that's going to happen in the next game. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But credit to Hawthorn. Heads up, Richmond. Play well against West Coast. Hawthorn, business as usual. Take on Melbourne, and should be a good game to watch. Play of the game. Let's get straight into it. Jay Newcombe from Hawthorn. Well done on your included 103 A4 fantasy, 27 disposals, 4 marks, 5 tackles, 5 clearances, 537 metres game. A great performance from Jay Newcombe from Hawthorn. Okie dokie. Okay, final game for round 8. Hopefully you're ready for this. That's right. We do come to Q Clash 28. Brisbane are taking on the Gold Coast like another show they made a rival. And I'm backing up with Gold Coast coming into this game because they knew they're going to be tested, but how much they're playing their football, their sexy football. And it's unfortunately didn't go their way, but they came over to the gutter and knew this was going to be a good game of football. A pretty low scoring game, but a good crowd of 33,612 pack at the Gunner for Q Class 28. Well, with Brisbane, business as usual, they're top of the ladder, they're a good team for a reason. They will come in and they'll play well, and fortunately, a bit disappointed with Gold Coast because, they lost against, a hard loss against Richmond. Now Brisbane, could be one of the best tests for them, and they did against Adelaide Crows, and then they take on Brisbane and another lucky loss, and that's why they went for a loss. So before we get into the major reviews and thoughts, well done to, and they got their Macca's Ashcroft medal, they gave it to the winner of the best and fairest for Q Clash 28, Will Ashcroft, for winning the Macca's Ashcroft medal. Well done on your game performance. Well, Gold Coast came from a loss to a win, now a loss. Biggest loss for the season against Brisbane. Knowing Gold Coast will bounce back from that Q Clash against Brisbane at the gutter. Gold Coast was never out of the game. Absolutely not. Gold Coast is a good team. Even they lost against a good team in form side against their rivals, Brisbane, I still hope they will be in the top 8, and I 100% will be supporting them. First time ever in AFL history since they're joining the AFL to make a statement. This will be a lone loss, and they'll go to Darwin to TIO Stadium they'll take on an improved test, Western Bulldogs, and should be absolute beauty. I will back up Gold Coast. They play absolute beauty. I did not see this happen, but should be a good game in action. But we go to Brisbane, Matatic win, the top of the ladder. They are going to be a decent team to now be tested. Where teams are, will hopefully, New Brisbane, New Gold Coast are going to be a hard team. They have proven 7 weeks into the season, and Brisbane now led every quarter, and Gold Coast came back in that last quarter, but unfortunately it wasn't enough. But it was safe for Brisbane to now travel to Hobart at Nugent Stadium as Brisbane take on North Melbourne on a twilight Sunday football at 4:10 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. That's South Australia Adelaide time, and that should be an alright North Melbourne outfit will take on, unfortunately, getting defeated against 9 points against Port Adelaide and Essendon by 3 points. So don't let North Melbourne be an easy trip from home, because I tell you, I think North Melbourne really will fight. But unfortunately, I think Brisbane will take a job will be done. But should be a good game, and 9 will be interesting as well. So once again, well done to the Brisbane defeating in Q Clash 28 over the Gold Coast Suns. It's time for that player of the game for the Gold Coast. Brisbane and Gold Coast, Will Ashcroft. I've got to give it to him. 119 A4 fantasy, 34 disposals, 6 months, 3 tackles, 9 clearances, and 480 metres game. Well done on your good performance and winning the Q Clash Ashcroft medal from the Macca's Ashcroft medal to you, mate, being the player of the game. Alright, it's now time to take on the round 9, where it's the week's gone. It's technically 10 week, but 9 apprenticeship rounds, not including that opening round. So let's get straight into round 9. Thursday football, 7:40 p.m. at Optus Stadium. We return for the Fremantle Dockers. They will host Collingwood Magpies. Now, knowing that Fremantle will have to bounce back from the embarrassing loss against, no matter where you are on that ladder, you cannot let St Kilda do that. And they did not play full quarters of football. Now, if Fremantle can come out in front of their Purple Army, get a decent crowd, I reckon it'll be between 40 to 45,000 at Optus Stadium. Should be a good game. Clearly, I'm going to go for Collingwood. Both teams do came off from losses, but I think Collingwood, they've got a decent good travel. They travel really well. They know what they need to work on. They know how good Fremantle have been this footy season 2025 AFL Premiership. season, and knowing that Fremantle are pretty hard at home. They've been one of the hardest teams out of the two Western Australian teams this 2025 AFL Premiership season. So I am sticking with Collingwood. It should be a good game. And yeah, Friday night football, 1-1 to another loss. Big winners to St Kilda over Fremantle, and an absolute heat defeat against the LA Crows for Carlton. Now, knowing that this game is played at MCG, so the first game was at Optus Stadium, now we head to Melbourne. MCG, St Kilda's home game. This is good to see on a big stage, and knowing that both teams love playing big ground. So, mainly for Carlton point of view. But this is one of the hardest games to tip. Not the game of the round. I do not see this that should be a prior time in my thoughts. But it is. It's chosen that. It should be a 60,000 to 70,000. I do see reaching 80,000 from my thoughts and reviews. So I'm backing off. I'm really thinking Carlton should win this game, but seeing what St Kilda did against Fremantle, I could be going for them. But on a safe bet, Carlton will bounce back, and I'm going with Carlton, knowing that this is a really important game for them. They've got to get back on that winning list. Yes, that was an awful defeat, but both one team smashing and one team the other. But should be a close game to watch, and I'm sticking with Carlton to win this game over St Kilda. Saturday football, we have Super Saturday football, and we've got a really big treat for you. And there is 3 games I do apologise. 1, 2, 3, 4 games. The usual 4 games are being played in the last couple of weeks. Okay, moving on into it. So, the first game we have on is back at the MCG. Melbourne vs Hawthorn. Clearly, I'm going to have to say Hawthorn. You know, both teams coming off big wins. Melbourne just taking business in Perth and back at home front. Let's get a really good, decent crowd. Very similar, 60,000, but I think it's going to be the 50, 55,000, hopefully. You know, Melbourne are starting to play some really good football, but Hawthorn has still got too much talent, and Sam Mitchell knows how important this game can be. Matt Scorn will be coming in absolute heated. Great performance from Matt Scorn, and Jane Newcombe, you know, he plays so well against, you know, the other team. I will share that in just a moment. So, against Richmond. So, you know, like I said, it's going to be a good contest, but I think Hawthorn will be my footy tip. Now, this is going to be an interesting game. Both teams have not had their best starts. A team has made the grand final, come second now, 14th, where Sydney have got a new coach, and then Dean Cox, as I said, joined the Sydney Derby game preview, that Dean Cox will be very happy to be getting his first win as head coach in the Sydney Derby, and how important for himself as head coach and the coaching crew, how much work it's been. It's a big week coming into this game. But Essendon, you know, they're finding ways to win. They struggle against North Melbourne, really a nail-biter. But I think it's going to be a safe bet. Staying with Essendon, I'm really going to stay with, I really want to stay Essendon. I really do. But after that win against, you know, who wants it more? And I'm going to stay with Essendon. Even they're not favourites. This is played at 3:45 Australian Eastern Standard Time, and it's played at Marble Stadium. So Essendon for me, and it could be an upset. We now come to double Saturday night football. Gold Coast and Western Bulldogs at TIO Stadium in Darwin, and Showdown 57 between the Power and the Crows, and I'll share that very soon. But I will now take on this game in Darwin. There's not much to really say. Both two teams an absolute, you know, one absolutely had a really nice thumping victory, and one got just defeated in their coup clash against the Riders of Brisbane Lions. But too much to say. I'm going for Gold Coast. Clear as that. You know, Western Bulldogs ain't good for me. You never know. But, you know, I did tip them one game and they actually won. So from last year, then tipped the Crows. I tipped the LA Crows over Gold Coast, and Gold Coast dominated. So don't know what happened, but same with Gold Coast. They love playing in heat, and this is their chance to make it back to back. We come to the next game and how important this team. It is the power. 12th place plays 5th, the Adelaide Crows. And what a game is this going to be? The actual rival that one team is going to come out and absolute put on the heat and one's going to play their style football. No, I know who I'm going for. You know who I'm going for. The Adelaide Crows. Who else? Adelaide are absolutely in good form. Not just lost against Fremantle, move on from that, from the NSAT night, and then come home, and absolutely dominated. That's how important. And look, I don't want to say too much, but I think it's going to be a really close game. It'll be Adelaide Crows winning it, but it should be a 3-4 goal. It'll be packed house, 50,000 plus. You can't say any more than that. It is a Port Adelaide home game, so it will be really heated, but it could be a very entertainment of football. Okie dokie. So the Crows is for that. We come to Sunday afternoon football, and it is the 12:40 slot back at the MCG, and we got the Richmond Tigers versus West Coast Eagles. Now, both teams got absolute defeated. This is where this is going to be interesting. You got Richmond Richmond supporters. You got to get a good, decent meal. Richmond loves the MCG. They've got to use it now. This is their time to show them what they are made of. This time slot, it's not going to be very much to know that anyone's going to watch this two bottom times. But Richmond are going to. I've chosen Richmond. They love MCG. They'll take them good, and they will apply back. I think it's going to be a close game, but you never know with West Coast. They could absolutely get their first win of the season, and I will absolutely be happy with that, but I think Richmond are safe from here. Not much to say with that, but I really think this is the game of the round. No and ever that this game should not be a, prime time slot. The Cats and the Giants down at the HBA Stadium in Geelong. It's the sexy Geelong Cats hosting the GWS Giants. By one team taking off a win and one team has absolutely not playing their brand of football. Now, can Adam Kingsley get the Giants? Must win. They do not want to go from 4 games in a row by getting defeat. But I think Geelong will go home. They'll play their style football. They know Geelong football down at the Gallery. It will be close. I tell you right now, it should be a good day of football, nice and chilled. So it should be a sold out crowd, and it should be a good entertainment game as well. So Geelong for me, 100%. The final game, not much to say. I want to let you know that, as you know, this game was in Geelong. But we want to let you know that game is 2:50 Australian Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you download the AFL app and check your local guards wherever you are around the country in Australia or wherever you are in the world. So this is a really interesting game to know. A test in North Melbourne is seeing where they are take on the absolute best team, Brisbane Lions. Not much to say. This game is at 4:10 p.m. and it is at Nissan Stadium in Hobart. Now, this is actually quite a good time slot. Not much will be shared in a big way, but I'm backing up Brisbane 100%. So not much to say, but North Melbourne keep improving, show what they can play against a good team like Brisbane, and should be a good one to watch and entertain. So that is it. They are in. So my first team is Collingwood over Fremantle, and I went for Carlton. I went with Hawthorn, Essendon, Gold Coast, the LA Crows, Richmond Tigers, Geelong Cats, and Brisbane Lions. We'll find out what happens. So, before we wrap up in this episode, thank you so much for listening to this 12th episode of the Aussie Footy Show, presented by the BJ Show. So, as I've been sharing in the last few episodes, there is a goal I like to reach of 1K and above. I'm going to say the above because it's time to get very, very concerned of my goal, and this is why I chose goals for a reason. It's been a long time. I've been running this podcast for 3.5 years, and I thank you for those who have absolutely... Now, there has been a few updates in my podcast, and thank you for those who have actually listened to my podcast. I much appreciate it. So, the last time I have shown it's 830, 831. Now we're 834. So, we are building. We are slowly getting that achievement, but it is a long, long way. We have 166 downloads, but I like to get 170, just a little bit full bonus episodes or downloads, I should say. We are currently on 123 episodes for this podcast with 127 remaining to go. And that goal is June, July, as that will be a big test for me to get done. I think I'm going to have to push it to August, but we'll see what we can do. And I'm backing everyone to make sure they do listen to this podcast, because the 250 episodes are a big deal. And thank you so much for those who have listened to my podcast. Make sure they do. So like I said, that's the goal. 1,001K by mid-May, late May is the absolutely test. And I've got a month of this month to do it. So as I mentioned as well, that this will be a separate episode. So the 12th episode will be a part 1 and part 2 with host your Aidan Berry will be also on a separate episode just to build up those episodes as well, but also listen to his reviews and thoughts. All right. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Thank you for your attention, and hopefully you enjoyed this. All right. Thank you for listening. The BJ Show's out. Bye for now. Peace.